So I didn't want the teen idol thing. So that was where that double-edged sword comes in, where I kind of had to battle, the teen heartthrob thing that I really didn't want to be a part of, but in the end of the day, again, you can't make decisions out of fear, man. If I could go back and rewrite history and take all the decisions I made out of fear out of it, I would be I'd be much better off.
Did you guys ever go for the same role? I mean, just throughout your whole career, like where you were,
So
no.
that's another thing that gets asked. And no, no. So there was never, that was definitely a good thing, but there was never any that kind of competition. We were very different, our personalities are very different. The age gap is just enough. I mean, there's 8 between me and Andy, 12 between Andy and Joe, and 4 between me and Joe. So especially in that era, like if Joe was going out for a 20-year-old, I was 16 and I was a late bloomer. He was an early bloomer. I was 16. I could play 14. He was, 20 and he could play 30. I mean, he had a full beard and he, shaved head at that point. Like, so there was never any crossover. Never, never happened.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Did you ever get really close to a role where, like I had someone on once where she says she was almost Julia Roberts in Pretty Woman, where we're like, oh my God, were you ever like heavily in the mix for a role that's like so well known where we're like, oh wow, could have been
Oh, yeah.
Matthew Lawrence?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Do you want
I
to let us
can't
know what
really,
that is?
I'm not going to go into it. It's a whole story. But yeah, there's a bunch, man. There's a bunch. There's a bunch of stuff behind it all too. But some of it good, some of it pretty dark. But you can't look back on those things. You got to move forward. Yeah. But
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. There's some. Yeah. Some big.
Wow. What about, look, I know you go to a lot of the conventions, Boy Meets
Yeah.
World. It's such an important show to so many of us that grew up at a certain time. Why do you think, I've been at these conventions, people line up. I mean, there's such nostalgia. Why do you think this show holds up so well?
You know, I think because it had good intentions and underneath it all, and it didn't placate. Again, I for some reason, and I think it's starting to change again, but for some reason, for a minute there, we went from family entertainment to like kid entertainment, and Boy Meets World and these type of shows were still in the phase where it was for the family, even though it was about young kids. They didn't placate the young kids. The young kids had actually valuable things to say and offer life lessons, and that was that era of TV and film where I'm very happy to be a part of because it was family entertainment. It wasn't they didn't like talk down and try to make children's entertainment. And I think that's what has happened to a lot when you're talking about the difference, especially in situational comedies. I mean, some of these sitcoms I'm turning on, I'm like, there's a reason why there's a live audience. I know it's more expensive, and I know that it's not easy to film with kids and live audiences, but you're just destroying the art form because these laugh tracks and the way that the actors are now going for the jokes are they're just not the way you would do it in front of a live audience, and that's what made that media. Uh, that's what made it special and good. Once you take that out of it, it's kind of a sticky, not it's not the most entertaining art form if you take out the audiences and you take out what really made them great. Um, so that's why I think that Boy Meets World is a very classic example of that. It was a family oriented show. They didn't placate to kids, and the motive was the message was there. The good message was there, and then also we had a great time. The cast was great. Everybody was amazing on the production. It was, and we made each other laugh all day. So it came through the TV, and that's what you guys felt, and that's what everyone felt. And that's a little extra. That's the lightning in a bottle thing. That you can't come up with. That just either happens or it doesn't. You even see it in sports teams. You can these days you can put these incredible ensemble casts together, and you could still not get that lightning in a bottle moment like you got with the Friends. You just
Yeah.
they all became rose from that show, but before that show they weren't household names. It was the chemistry is the reason why each individual one of those got those roles. And again, that's also been lost. The chemistry read. They don't do it anymore. And it's like you wonder why these shows aren't hitting the same way. And you're like, well, because they're literally going out and going, it's like a what if. It's not a, oh, this work. I'm seeing this work. It's like, well, what if we got this big name and this big name? They're funny and on their own individual, right? So we put them together and they're not funny. What's going on? This is the chemistry, guys. It's not the way it works. You can't get all LeBron Jameses on one team, and the team would actually fail. The team wouldn't do good. There's a reason why everybody has a role, and it's kind of been lost. So that wasn't in that era. That was still that was the way shows were made.
That makes sense. Recently, speaking of podcasts, your prom date, Danielle Fishel, she had Maitland Ward on her podcast
Yeah.
and things got heated and it went
Yeah.
back to like Girl Meets World.
Yeah.
And Danielle said, like, listen, it's not that I had anything against you on the set. It was just a difficult set. Like, as an actor, how do you handle when you're on a difficult set?
It always bums me out because this isn't rocket science. We're not curing cancer. We're trying to entertain people, and everybody should really be, just happy to be able to do what they love and really try to create something that's outside of themselves and not think so personally, honestly. And so whenever that happens, it's always a real letdown because that is the experience that I love taking away from the every project that I've ever done. It's the fact that you can get this group of people together and they're all trying without you take one person out of there and it doesn't work. Okay, you get this huge group of people. You need everybody to make this product to entertain people that's greater than any individual person. And when it comes together and everybody's working and it's going good, it's the greatest feeling in the world. So to tank that on a set is terrible because sometimes the product, the end result, hits or it doesn't. But really, what you take away from you is that on-set experience, and that's the most important thing. So when I see that getting lost, it's a very frustrating experience for me. It always bums me out, and kind of. But how do I manage it? I say exactly this. I'll state my piece with saying, it's a shame, and this is what it should be. And then I'll have to, unfortunately, if that doesn't work, I just try to stick to myself, and I try at least to do my part and at least make sure that I'm 100%, when it comes to my attitude, when it comes to my performance, when it comes to the way that I treat people. I always try to make sure it's on point no matter what's going on. And that's the best thing that I can do to try to get around that.
That's really good advice. As we wrap up, well, listen, maybe you want to have Danielle and Maitland on your Brotherly Love podcast and try to like bring these two back together. I mean, they're two of your sisters, right?
Didn't think about that. Danielle is definitely coming on. So stay tuned for that. But yeah, that's interesting. I don't know. You know, uh, that's a good, hey, it would be viral. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if Danielle would want that. I have to ask her. It's really up to Danny on that one. You know,
Totally. As we wrap up, what would this last question, what would Joey say about the fact that you got, further in the Masked Singer as Paparazzo than he did as Walrus?
whoa, that's probably what Joe would do.
Probably. Well, listen, I mean, that really works in so many situations, right? Well, it's been great watching you on The Masked Singer. Congratulations. I feel you will not fear performing on a large stage anymore, like you said. So, thank you for Paparazzo. It's been great watching you this season.
Shit, dude. Thanks for talking, man.
Take care. You too. Thank you for taking your time. Bye.